Now, welcome to another series of the Blue Beauty webinars. We are meeting every Thursday, the same time, until end of September and also November. We will have a short break in November, December for holiday season. And today there is a very special guest and long anticipated, Anthony Rossi. We invite you to speak about why beauty and personal care needs to get on board with Loop. There were a lot of questions and a lot of requests for the presentations like that, and I'm super happy to introduce you Jeannie Jarnot, who is the facilitator of the Blue Beauty movement and the founder and CEO of Beauty Heroes retailer. Jeannie will be having a fireside chat and ask questions, and we also invite you to ask questions. There is a Q&A sessions here in chat, and we will be answering as fast as we can. So please welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us from Houston. You're based in Philly, and but you're in Houston today on business. And good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning into this Blue Beauty webinar series. I'm so excited to dive into Loop this morning with you. You've been with TerraCycle and Loop for 10 years?
Yeah, almost a decade now. I'm in sales, so I round up. I think it's 9 and change. But yeah, I started my career at TerraCycle in Canada and moved down to the US about 6 years ago. And as Loop was being incubated, I made the move over, which is about 3 years now.
I'm super jealous. If I didn't have Beauty Heroes, Loop is definitely a company I would want to work for. But I'm really excited to dive into it. You and I talked. I couldn't get off the call with you because there's so much to learn about Loop. And I wanted to just share, from a consumer experience, Beauty Heroes TerraCycles. We TerraCycle in our office. We TerraCycle in our store, and we have people come in our community just to drop all of their products into our TerraCycle bins. We have 4 bins. TerraCycle recycles everything, and Loop is taking it to a completely new space. So I want to get into that, and what we started with on our conversation when you were breaking it down for me was that Loop has really three ways that it works. You work with brands to get them into the Loop system, and we're going to go into that. You work with retailers like Ulta, Beauty Heroes, and other. You work with retailers and partner with them, and then you have a whole innovation team. And I definitely saw the news. We talked about it on our call, but then I saw the news hit about McDonald's in France and working on innovation in finding new ways to deliver products in a circular way. So there's lots to talk about. So I want to just start with, giving us an overview of the Loop model and, how it started and what you do. And then we're going to dive into those different partnerships.
Of course. So you hit the nail on the head, when it comes to the stakeholders in Loop, and I'll get to that in a second. But I always like to start with, what Loop is. And Loop is a platform for reusability, right? We are a TerraCycle company, and TerraCycle is a mission-based company. We want to eliminate the idea of waste, and for almost 20 years now, we've primarily done that through recycling. But I think as we see what's happening in society today, recycling is incredibly important, but we don't think it's going to be the ultimate solution for the waste problem that we have. And that's really where Loop was born, was how do we stop putting a Band-Aid on a cut, and how do we start to systematically solve the issue of waste? And for us, that was attacking the idea of single-use and disposability. And Loop, again, is a platform that enables reusability. And for us, we do work with 3 key stakeholders. The first is the brands, right? Loop isn't a brand. We don't want to create our own private label products. We want to partner with brands, both large and small, to have them continue to do what they do best, and that's make products that consumers want to purchase.
Yeah.
The only difference in Loop is we want them to fill those products in durable, reusable packaging.
Mhm.
The second, and as we discussed, key stakeholder is the retailer, because just like Loop is not a brand making products, we're not a retailer. That's not our core competency, and that's why we're partnering with the Krogers and Walgreens and now Ulta Beauties of the world to do what they do best, and that's get these unique products in the hands of consumers. And then lastly, that leaves Loop. So what is it that we do? And for us, I think it really is twofold. On the front end, we help our partners on the brand and retail side move into a more durable platform. And then on the back end, and really I think what makes us special is we can clean and sanitize all of the packaging that's coming back to Loop so that it can be sent back to the brands to be refilled and then re-enter inventory with our retail partners.
Yeah, as we were talking originally, it was sort of this aha moment to understand that Loop is not a retailer. So that was, I think important to understand. So as a consumer, I've been obviously on the TerraCycle email list for a long time. And then about a year ago or so, I can't remember exactly when, I got the email that said Loop is coming, and, sign up to get on the list. Everybody who's attending this call, you should do this so that you're in the loop, no pun intended. But Loop will be coming to your area at some point in the future. I got on the email list, and actually, so funny, just this week, I think it was Monday, I got an email in my inbox that said Loop is now available in your area, and it had products. Actually, I was like, this is so exciting. This is like, I'm talking to Tony. I have a webinar with Tony, and now Loop's available in the area. And it had it had a hand soap and a few things. And I signed up, and I was going to order, right that minute, but it's not available exactly in my zip code. It's probably rolling out in San Francisco. I'm in a suburb of San Francisco, so it's probably coming in a few weeks. So I signed up, and hopefully in a few weeks, I'm going to be making my first Loop purchase. But it was sort of this, I think all this time I sort of understood Loop as a retailer, which you are not. So I think that's fascinating. You are a platform, and you're also kind of a packaging, consultant, supplier, and logistics company is kind of how I think of you after our conversation. So let's talk about if I'm a beauty brand, and I have a product that I want to partner with you to help get my product into the Loop system. How does it walk us through that process?
Got it. So like I said, one of our core competencies really is a consultant to help brands make that leap into durability. So the step one for all of our brand partners is to move from single use to durable. And what Loop does is we have a team who works with our brand partners to really project manage that process. And we provide a lot of insights and support to help brands make that journey. And in that process, there are a lot of different things, as you can imagine, that need to be considered, because I think one of the fun parts about Loop is it's exciting. People want to learn more. They're eager to start the process. But then on the other hand, what we're really asking is for a lot of our partners to change the way that they do business. And that's not easy. So we provide support from a packaging development point of view, and we have multiple different paths to reusability. We have brands who can leverage their existing packaging. When it comes to the Loop store today, and if you go onto our website, you can see some examples. You may notice there are quite a few glass products, because glass as a material and in our platform is durable. It is cleanable, so it lends itself to reusability nicely. So we can help our partners bring existing packaging into the Loop platform. So that's path one. Path two is what we internally call our stock packaging path. So in the 3.5 years that we've been working with our brand partners, we've built a lot of relationships with packaging manufacturers, and we have a catalog of, upwards of 90 plus different kinds of packages that Loop has already tested for durability, right? Structurally, can it withstand the rigors of the platform? And most importantly, cleanability, right? When this packaging comes back to us and it has residual product left in it, can we clean and sanitize that packaging to the very, very stringent levels that our brand partners are going to demand of us? So that's path two, right? Is let's choose something that already exists. And then the last path is, and a lot of our partners take this path as well, is can I create something completely customized that works for my brand? And that involves, working with design agencies, creating molds that are proprietary to that brand. And again, Loop is always here to help our partners when it comes to material selection, when it comes to shapes and designs and openings. So we really guide that process. And then there are a lot of other components that need to be crossed off when moving from single-use to durable, especially around quality control and regulatory environment, right? Are we cleaning that packaging to the levels, like I said, that you as a brand are going to demand of us? What ISO certifications does our facility have? What are the microbial levels that need to be accepted for you as a brand to be able to refill these products? To even how do we stage the clean packaging once it comes off of our cleaning line? So there are a lot of steps that need to be covered in order to create a package and a product that can enter into the Loop platform. And we're here to kind of usher our partners through that process.
Yeah, thank you. So there's a cost to that. And so brands actually pay Loop to be a part of this program. Can you talk about publicly? And are there minimums? I saw that one person asked, and that's a great question. So is there a minimum quantity to be able to participate in the
So it's a great question. When it comes to that onboarding process, we have various different packages available. And each of those packages comes with a specific level of support and covers different regions as well. So it ranges from the low tens of thousands to mid six figures, depending on the size of the brand and the scope of the work that we're doing. And what that fee covers, again, is the Loop team's time to help you as a brand navigate this process. When it comes to order minimums, I would say that in the Loop store today, right? So this is our attempt at playing retailer, and it's there really as a test and learn platform. Our MOQs are actually quite low because our program is not really built to scale and sell as much product as possible. So it's always a conversation. I think the key is that for the number of participants that we have in the platform, that we have enough stock and we're floating enough product that we can actually test how this is going to behave. But it can be from anywhere from 500 to maybe 1,500 products at a time. So pretty low MOQs. When we think about what we, again, internally call our integrated retail models, when we work with the Ultas and the Krogers of the world, when we talk about order minimums, that's a conversation that our brands will have directly with the retailer themselves, because the retailer ultimately will take on the sale of these products to the consumer. They will know the scope of what they're looking at, whether it's 30 stores in a physical stores in a city, or if it's a national e-commerce campaign. That conversation is had directly between the brand and the retailer.
Yes. I'm going to jump forward actually into sort of the loop thing, because at the end, I'm going to kind of give everybody the end like model that you and I walked through, and then we'll unpack it. So the way it works ultimately is you work with the brand on the packaging, and you actually sell the packaging to the brand, right?
Slight twist. So we work with the brand on packaging, and while I'll just maybe put up some slides and flip through them slowly as I talk this through. In Loop, the very first paradigm shift that we have is that packaging becomes an asset that is owned by our brand partners, right? So ultimate responsibility for procuring that packaging lies with our brand partners. Loop, like I said, has manufacturing partners who are making some of these examples that you see here on the screen. And we would introduce our brand partners directly to that company. And again, it's up to the brands to procure that packaging directly from the company. What we as Loop do is, again, we make sure that that product is durable and it's cleanable. So again, ultimately, it's the brand who buys the packaging.
The brand buys the packaging from the packaging supplier, the Loop approved packaging. Then they fill it with their shampoo or whatever the product is. Then they sell it to they can sell it to their customers, right?
So yes, I think when you look at Loop, Loop follows a similar, if not the same, journey that regular single-use products would take to get to the consumer. So if we take the entire flow, step one is to create that durable product, and our brand partner will fill that product. They will stage that product in probably some kind of boxes, and they will ship and sell that product to the retailer. The retailer, again, will receive that product, whether it's at their individual stores, whether it's at a distribution center. That conversation is had directly between the brand and the retailer. The retailer will then sell that product to the consumer. The consumer takes this, we have some moisturizer here on the screen. They take it home, they use it. When it's empty, they're able to send it back. And there are multiple different ways, depending on the model, that it can come back to Loop, where Loop aggregates and cleans and sanitizes the packaging. And then we almost act as a pack supplier on the back end, where we're providing brands with packaging to fill again. The only difference is, instead of new virgin material and single-use packaging, it is the brand's packaging that they've created on the front end.
Right. And so if a brand were to sell me, if I wanted to buy a product from a brand and sell it to my customers, I would need to be sort of in the loops. I'd need to be a Loop retailer though, right? Because we need to collect the deposit, and we need to provide the instructions on return and possibly the method of return, right? So the brands can't just sell it to any retailer. That retailer needs to be a Loop sort of Loop.
Exactly. So we have Loop retailers who, again, have embedded the Loop platform into their distribution channels, right? So, and that could be a retailer selling multiple different brands. And we do have, I can't mention it because it hasn't been public yet, but we actually have quite a few brands who have their own retail distribution, whether that be via e-commerce or their own physical brick and mortar stores, and they can embed the idea of reuse into their retail channels as well.
Great. Okay, so let's go into the retail process. So if I'm a retailer of Beauty Heroes and I come to Loop and I say, okay, I want to be able to sell Loop products, walk us through that process.
So for us, in terms of our retail partners, there's really two important steps. The first step is to build the model and integrate it into that retailer's distribution channels. The first question that usually comes up, and one of the ones that we need to figure out, is Loop going to live online in their e-commerce shop, Or does the brand have a brick and mortar store? Do they want to put Loop products on shelf? Or can it be both, right? For a lot of our partners, they'll usually start with either e-commerce or in-store, but ultimately we'll choose both because, as you'll see, once we figure out how and where Loop products can be purchased, we also need to figure out how they will come back. So that is something unique to Loop that doesn't exist in a single use or linear economy, is we need to get these products back. So right now, or with a retailer, we have to figure out how that will work. And that can either be done through a courier. So if I fast forward and think about the model that we have live with Carrefour, which is a big mass market retailer in France, Carrefour's Loop experience today lives online. Carrefour, though, specific to them, has their own fleet of delivery people. So Carrefour drivers are the ones who will send or who will ship the order to the consumer who's purchased it. And that driver is also the same person who can pick it up when it's empty. So with that specific experience, Carrefour plays a very important role in the distribution and the return of these packages. When Carrefour, in November of this year, will have Loop products on shelf in 10 stores in Paris, there will also be the opportunity for Carrefour shoppers to physically bring back those empty products to that store. And there will be a bin in that store that will be serviced by Loop on a schedule where we will take back all of the empty packages to our warehouse and cleaning facility, where again, they're cleaned, sanitized, and then sent back to the brand. So with a retailer, the first step is how does this integrate into your supply chain? The second very important process that we need to work on with our retail partners as well is how do we build an assortment that makes sense for you as a retailer? How do we make sure, Janine, if this lives at Beauty Heroes, that we have brands in the Loop platform that you want to sell as a retailer? So those are the two paths that we work on in parallel to make Loop happen for our retail partners.
Yeah. So somebody asked a great question, and I think this will lead us into an important piece. They said, who's responsible and how do you educate a customer that, hey, you're purchasing a Loop product. This is what you're going to, this is what that means. This packaging is refillable, and this is how you return it. And part of that process is I'd like to hear how you're working with retailers on that education piece to support them in educating their consumers. But there's also a charge. So when somebody purchases a Loop product at a retailer, they're also going to pay for a deposit. So that deposit's certainly going to be part of the transaction, part of the conversation, part of the process of education. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Of course. So you mentioned the deposit. The deposit is a very powerful tool to educate consumers because ultimately consumers want to get their money back for the deposit that they've put down to securitize that package that belongs to the brand who's manufactured it. So that's a really, really strong incentive. And right now, in our standalone platform, return rates are upwards of 97%, noting that it's a small scale test and learn, but we can see that the deposit is incredibly effective. That said, this is a new way to shop, right? Or a reimagined way to shop, because the milkman existed many years ago and still does today, but Loop is a newer way to engage with consumers. So there is education that needs to be conveyed to the consumer to let them know, hey, this is something that you want to return. And if you put it in your blue bin or your garbage bin, it's not magically going to be cleaned and end up at the brand to be refilled. So how we approach that is really threefold. The short answer to Imogen's question is both the brand, the retailer, and Loop play a role in educating the consumer. So Loop, we have our own channels, and we will push education through those channels, through our communication, marketing and PR. We will help brands tell that story in their traditional communication channels. And then the retailer they will have very visible instruction on their e-commerce shop. If I don't have it in the slides that I prepared, but when Loop comes to life for retailers on shelf, initially Loop products will not be co-merchandised. They will have a separate section within the store, and that section will have a lot of very clear and visible communication, so the consumer is aware of what they're buying into.
Let me ask this. This is one area I wanted to go deeper into, and I think when they purchase the Loop products, one of the things that we spoke about is that you encourage them to purchase more than one, because returning is so they're at the retail site. They're also going to receive a mechanism by which they would return it by mail if they wanted that, right?
So it depends on the retailer, right? So if we're talking about Carrefour, which is the public example that exists today, you may purchase a Loop product on shelf in a physical Carrefour store. But if you've also purchased products from Carrefour on their online shop and their driver is dropping off a delivery, you can also give that product back to that driver specifically. If a retailer wants to make the return available via courier, it's completely up to them.
Yeah, Carrefour is very specific. I think maybe I want to think of it in terms of Ulta. So Loop's coming to Ulta, and so if I purchase, 3 Loop products in an Ulta store or in a Beauty Hero store, then people could bring it back into the store if they wanted to next time they come to Ulta, and they would get their deposit back at that point. Or if they wanted to mail it in, how would that work?
So it depends. Like, again, I want to be really clear and specific that Loop is going to come to life in different ways for different retailers. So Ulta will begin via e-commerce. So you won't see Loop products on shelf at Ulta to begin with. You could only shop via their e-commerce site. And then because of that, the return is only available via courier to begin with.
Okay.
And then when it comes in store, then usually that in-store integration also comes with the ability to drop off in store as well.
So if I order, I think the in-store is very clear if people order products online via Ulta, they're also going to get a mechanism to return, like an envelope or the pouch to return those products in, and then they're using it to get their deposit back. Right?
So depends. I hate to be so cryptic, but let's go through a couple hypotheticals. Let's look at Loop Store as a retailer today. The way that our model works, so when you get added, hopefully in the very near future, you would purchase products on Loop Store, right? Today, our average basket size is quite large, almost a dozen products per order. Those products would be pick-packed by Loop. They would be placed in a durable, reusable tote bag, and they would be sent to your door. You would use those products as they're empty. You would put them back into the tote bag. When you're ready to send back those products, the label that you receive, the shipping label, and it's via UPS here in the United States, is double-sided. So you would flip the label over, and now that label is your return mechanism. And then if UPS is coming to your door, you can simply give them the tote. You can bring it back to a UPS store, or you can arrange for a UPS pickup. And you would simply give that tote to the driver, and it would come back to Loop. So that's how we work today. In the Loop model, as soon as we check in your bag, we will automatically refund the value of the deposits into your account. Because it's a contained system, it all lives in the Loop store.
Right.
When we look at our retail partners will not administer the deposit. It will be done via Loop, because ultimately, when these products are checked in, they're first checked in at a Loop facility. So when that comes to play, Loop has developed an app, and the app will live across retailers. So you will see Kroger in the app, you will see Walgreens, you will see Ulta. In Europe, you can see McDonald's, and that app is the vehicle to manage the deposit. So before a consumer sends back their package or their tote with multiple packages in the tote, they would scan it with their app, and as soon as we check it in as Loop, we would refund the value of the deposits into the consumer's app, and then they can transfer that money back to their bank.
Yeah, so what I think is so fascinating for this and for everybody who's attending is to really be imagining how this is going to be taking shape in the next 5 years or so, where we're going to start finding Loop packaging and products in so many different touch points in our lives. And we're going to be managing it, and it's really exciting. So it's a whole paradigm shift. It's a lot to wrap our heads around. And I think, we have, this particular conversations about beauty brand, for beauty brands, and thinking about how, and the title of this chat is why beauty and personal care needs to get on board with Loop. And I was really surprised that, we'll keep it confidential, but there's a brand that Beauty Heroes works with that is working with you already in some packaging. So I'm very excited to see that a sort of a smaller, independent, really wonderful brand that we love is already on board with Loop. So that's exciting. Can you give us some stats on packaging and how much packaging basically Loop is going to be diverting, and some of the staggering stats maybe for beauty and personal care, and how much actually gets recycled and most that doesn't get recycled, and all of that?
Yeah, so I think probably better than most as a TerraCycle collector in your stores, the beauty industry has a very, very difficult time making their products recyclable. And just as a refresher for a lot of people, recyclability and what makes a product recyclable has very little to do with the technical ability to recycle packaging, and it has everything to do with the economics involved in recycling packaging, right? So why is a PET bottle municipally recyclable? It's because PET as a raw material is valuable. So a MRF, which is a material recovery facility, can collect, aggregate, sort, and process those PET bottles. And at the end of the day, that new raw material that they've created is more valuable than the costs to get it into that format, right? That's kind of the secret sauce to recycling. And when we look at the beauty industry, what's challenging is that we have a lot of complex materials, right? The beauty industry uses a lot of ABS. There are metal components. There are pumps and triggers, and the lid may be a different composition than the bottle. All of that complexity decreases the ultimate value of the raw material that a recycling company is able to create. So as such, a lot of the material produced in the personal care and beauty industry does not lend itself naturally to municipal recycling. So that's where TerraCycle has been partnered with a lot of retailers and brands in the beauty space to provide custom recycling options for that packaging. So it's a challenging space in the beauty industry. And I think that's why it's such an important category and industry for us at Loop, because we feel as though we can make a really big impact through reusability, right? How do we create a compact? How do we create a moisturizer or a toner where that packaging can be used again and again and again? And for us at Loop, when we work with our partners, our goal is, how do we create a package that can be reused 100 times again? And we're just delaying, like everything comes to an end of life at some point, but we want to push that end of life as far as possible. And then I think one of the beautiful things, and not to use a bad pun with this industry and this group, one of the beautiful things about Loop is we are owned by TerraCycle. So when a product does come to its end of life, we have the infrastructure and the ability to make sure that all of this packaging is materially recycled.
It is really beautiful. And I hadn't really even thought about, like, after the packaging has been used 100 times or more, where does that go? And it goes to Terra, which is cool.
Yeah, it's nice to have multiple touch points at our company, for sure. What I also didn't touch on, and I should touch on, is you talked about scale. One of the big reasons why Loop is not endeavoring to become a retailer is scalability, right? For us to have the impact that we want to have and need to have in reusability, it makes way more sense to integrate this platform into existing sales supply chains. Beauty Heroes, Ulta, Kroger, Walgreens, in Canada, Loblaws, in UK, Tesco, and France, Carrefour. You have a consumer base already that we can tap into, versus trying to organically create a new consumer base via Loop. And for us, retail partners bring scalability. Scalability brings economies of scale and affordability. Affordability breeds mass adoption. And the more people that are using this, the better, or the more impact we can have in a positive way for the environment.
Yeah, and one of the things that we touched on, and I want you to kind of go a little bit into this, because I'm sure this is what a lot of people, this is a question a lot of people have, is the life cycle analysis that you've done on sort of this process of, shipping back the packaging rather than, sort of killing it. And you sort of walked me through that, and it was, you have to think about the full life cycle, not just like from the the packaging supplier to the brand, to the retailer, to but walk me through the life cycle analysis that Loop and TerraCycle have done on packaging. Multiple, right?
Yes. So we've done upwards of 24 LCAs for our partners, and without exception, reusability has a better environmental impact than single use. And all of our LCAs are comparing single use where the package is being materially recycled. We're not comparing it to being incinerated or waste of energy or to landfill. We're comparing against material recyclability. And I'll try to keep it short and sweet, but what we see is that on average, and it depends on the total supply chain, when you compare a Loop package, a durable package, to a single-use package, if you were only to use each of those packages one time, the single-use package would perform better from a life cycle analysis point of view, because you're using less material at the end of the day. But what we see is as quick as 3 reuses of the Loop durable package, we start to see a dramatic environmental improvement versus consistently using a single-use package. And then from 3 to 7 reuses, we see about a 52, 53% positive environmental impact. And then from 7 reuses to the end of life of the package, we see upwards of a 70 to 72% positive environmental impact. And what we're measuring when I say environmental impact, we're measuring the shipping. We're also measuring water usage, right? We use water in our washing facilities, and in a regular single-use environment, there isn't water usage. We're measuring air pollution. We're measuring 5 other categories that escape me right this second, but we're looking, like you said, at the total life cycle of that product. And two other quick points. A lot of folks will point to, well, there's more shipping now with Loop. And there is shipping in Loop, but what most people don't consider is that when you think of your blue bin and the total life cycle of that product being materially recycled, it's picked up by your curb by maybe the worst polluting truck on the road today, a garbage truck or a recycling truck. It's taken back to a MRF, a material recovery facility. At the MRF, let's look at PET. Again, PET bottles are sorted out and they're baled. They don't get recycled at the MRF. They're usually sent off to another facility to be processed. That facility may more than likely be overseas as well. Once it's processed into a new format, a flake, a pellet, it is then sent to a packaging manufacturer. That packaging manufacturer will form it into a bottle. That bottle is then sent to the brand, who will then fill it and then sent to the retailer. So there's a huge supply chain and shipping footprint in single use as well that needs to be considered. And the last thing that I wanted to say is, you can imagine when Loop made our announcement at the World Economic Forum in January of 2019, and we got on stage with a few of our founding partners like Procter & Gamble and PepsiCo, and they were on stage together with Greenpeace. We had to have all of our ducks lined up to make sure that this did have a positive environmental impact. And Greenpeace, the World Economic Forum, the World Wildlife Fund, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, all to this day, and as recently as I think last week, are still applauding Loop's efforts for the environmental impact that we can have, as well as our partners who are partnered with us. So I know that was a long-winded answer.
That was perfect. You really, I love that. That's great. I think that was super clear. How many beauty and personal care brands are currently signed up with Loop?
I can tell you that we had 3 new ones as early as last week. So it is definitely a category that is growing. And I think a big reason why is our recent announcement in partnership with Ulta, because now a lot of our personal care and beauty providers have a channel that they can sell through. For a lot of our partners in this space, perhaps mass market retailers like Carrefour or Kroger was not exactly the appropriate sales channel for their product. But now that we have Ulta on board, we've seen a huge uptick in the number of brands in this space that will begin working with Loop.
Great. And when can the general population start to see Loop in their local area? Like, what's the rollout like? So
through the Loop standalone model, which again is that test and learn model that you are being very patient on our waiting list, we're rolling that out now, and we're hoping to hit as many zip codes in the continental U.S. as possible, and as soon as possible. When we think about our partnerships with somebody like Kroger will come, likely in Q1 of next year. Walgreens will be soon thereafter. Our partnership with Ulta will launch likely in February of 2021. So 2021 is a very big year for Loop. And, Loop to date has been a lot of our focus has been on testing, learning, trialing, awareness, education, which was critical and is enabling us to have a strong 2021, where a lot of our retail partners will finally start selling these products themselves. And when that happens, it'll be available to many, many more consumers than it is today.
Wonderful. last question for me is, if a brand doesn't have refillable packaging, and it's, I don't know, I'm sort of thinking about makeup and so many different types of products. Can a brand come to you and say, hey, I want to work with you to innovate something refillable?
Absolutely. Yeah, one of our first partners was Nestle Ice Cream, and they wanted to create an ice cream container that could exist in a supply chain that did not use frozen or refrigerated trucking, and we refused to put dry ice or other disposable freezing mechanisms in our tote. So there was a ton of innovation that went into that packaging to enable ice cream to be delivered in the supply chain that I just mentioned. So we're absolutely here to innovate. We love innovation. The consumer loves innovation. I think that's one of the fun parts about Loop is, how can I make a package that really is irresistible to the consumer, and not for sustainability reasons, but for performance, right? The ice cream package that Haagen-Dazs came up with performs very well. You can eat your ice cream right out of the container. Your hand won't melt the ice cream. Your hand won't get frozen. It melts from the top down. It's curved on the inside, so you can get every last. That is performance. That is efficacy. That is bringing a new experience to the consumer. It has nothing to do with sustainability. It happens to be much more sustainable than a coated paper pint of ice cream, but they were really looking at, how can I excite my consumer with innovations in packaging? And this idea, and going back to that first paradigm shift in Loop, making packaging an asset that's owned by the brands, that can be depreciated, the cost that is, over the length of the life of that package, enables brands to spend more, right? When you're constrained by spending 5, 10, 50 cents on a package, there's only so much that you can do, right? But if you look at Loop and you look at some of our top selling products on the platform, they're also the packages that have the highest value, that have the biggest deposit. But consumers are willing to pay that deposit when the package performs and is beautiful and is going to delight them. And importantly, knowing is they're going to get that deposit as soon as they send it back. So that's a really big shift in Loop, and how we want to bring reusability to the consumer, is returning delight and joy through packaging.
I think that's a great place to end our talk today. I think that that's the win-win-win, if you can make that happen, where the experience is somehow improved through a sustainable solution that that delivers, just a better experience. That's the win-win-win. That's very exciting. I think this has given, hopefully, everybody a really good insight into Loop, and certainly an opportunity that if it's something that makes sense for your brand or for your company, that you now understand a little bit more and can get in touch with Loop if you're interested in partnership and having a deeper conversation with you, because there is obviously so much more to talk about that is specific to different applications, different companies. So thank you so much for talking to me the first time, and to talking the second time. And thanks for exciting us about what the future is for circular packaging, circular products, and shift the world to a bluer, lighter space. Thank you.
It's honestly, it's my pleasure. I love this forum, and I love what you guys are doing weekly, and it's really a pleasure to be able to participate. And the running joke at Loop is, for every question answered, it invites 100 new ones. So I hope this isn't the last time that we connect, and I like to think that I'm quite available should anybody ever have any questions. You can always reach out.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. Thank you, Irina, for coordinating this and for really.
Thank you.
Thank you, Irina. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, wherever you may be.
You too.
See, you're still recording.
I am like, okay, I'm ending the, hold on, stop recording.